Hey, you're watching On the Spot. I'm James Toth. I'm here with the great Nathan Bowles. Hey, Nathan.
Oh, great. Hello. Good.
Thanks for playing. That was beautiful.
Oh, thanks.
I love that song.
Thanks. Yeah, I do too.
How's tour?
Really good.
Good.
It's been a kind of a breeze. Elisa's really easy and fun to travel with.
Elise Ambrosio, of course.
Yep. Shows have been good. It's nice to just play every night, work out the tunes, and do the work.
Right on.
Fun.
Yeah, I know that work. Now, this isn't for you. This is something else. These aren't questions I'm reading off paper. This is something I have to
It's just it's a Capitol Records contract.
Yeah, we're going to talk about that later. Okay. But I was going to say, yeah, your new record, Nansmont, which we have here, which is terrific, is very evocative of place. There's talk of, in the titles, Tire Swings, Bike Clubs. Is this a nostalgic record for you? Is it wistful?
No. It doesn't feel that way. I mean, I think it can be listened to in that way. I mean, the place names and some of the like images I was thinking of when I was writing the songs, I think were a result of me going through some like big life changes, turning 30, thinking a lot about what it means to keep growing older and how things from childhood continue to feel more distant, more distant, more distant. And I was reading a lot of books that dealt with memory and like shared historical trauma, for lack of a better term.
Oh.
And I don't know, something about all of those ideas just sort of melded together. I don't get nostalgic about home so much. But whenever I visit there, which isn't that often anymore, my dad still lives there.
And this is where originally?
It's in Suffolk County, Virginia, so the Tidewater area of Virginia.
Right.
Whenever I visit, I get kind of weirded out by the place. It's changed a lot since I grew up there. But yeah, no, there are happy memories too that maybe are reflected in some of the like the Sleepy Lake songs. Are kind of a mixture of some happiness and wistfulness and confusion and sadness and
And is that a real place, the Sleepy Lake?
That was the name of like the little kind of like wooded burb that I lived in that was on Sleepy Lake, which was mostly just like a muddy.
Yeah.
I mean, occasionally we would canoe out to the center of it and put out fishing lines and not catch anything and paddle back.
Sounds
it wasn't.
fun.
Yeah, it was all right.
Well, I know a little bit about your background in the banjo, about how basically you were a percussionist originally, right? And the Black Twig Pickers, of course, sort of goaded you into, finding your spirit animal in the banjo. So, like, as a percussionist, I know you said, you never played guitar, so you never made guitarist mistakes. And I always thought that was such a great quote of yours. But I was wondering, like, what drew you to clawhammer in particular versus, like, say, frailing or something? Was it had to do with your geography or I mean, basically, why do you hate Earl Scruggs? What do you have against the man?
I was just watching this sick YouTube the other day of Earl and the Birds, like playing in some backyard or something.
Yeah.
It's so good.
Oh, man.
So the clawhammer thing was Mike Gangloff from Twigs and Pelt, and he was big and continues to be a real musical peer and inspiration. He was a clawhammer banjo player, and so I liked the way banjo sounded when he played, and I was drawn to the rhythmic quality of it, and the circular rhythm of it that is kind of the default just because of the way you're playing when your hand is in that, So and then regionally, clawhammer banjo playing is comes from that old time fiddle banjo tradition,
Sure.
in which a lot of people are still playing that type of music around where I live in Blacksburg. So it wasn't just Mike. I mean, I saw other clawhammer banjo players too.
Yeah.
But then when I started playing with Twigs, doing like washboard and like tub bass and stuff, and
Right.
just sort of all laundry implements.
Yeah.
Yeah, Isaac from Twigs and Mike really encouraged me to pick up banjo because, I mean, I think they could see that I was super interested in solo string music, especially fingerstyle guitar. I was really getting deep into listening to that type of music, and then they could see that my proclivity for rhythm, I think, worked. So they bought me a cheap banjo, and then I just started diving headfirst into it.
You just took to it.
Yeah, and again, I don't come from any other fretted instruments, so
Right.
I came to it from a perspective that, I don't want to say fresh perspective, but just a different, unlearned perspective
Sure.
when it came to fretting and chord shapes and stuff, so everything is
Yeah.
from a different place.
Yeah, like these days, I always can tell when I'm playing with a bass player, and if, I can tell whether they're a bass player or a guitar player that's switched to bass. And
Yeah, I like
same kind of
watching
thing.
shows and like looking at bass players' left hands and seeing like, where do you come from?
A lot of root notes. Yeah. But it's interesting. That brings up a point though about what you're talking about, where you're from, and then to still play those musics. Like one thing I really love about your music is that it's respectful without being overly reverent. I think that goes through
right.
like,
Cool.
obviously the musique concrète elements, and you're kind of an out dude in that way, but also the way you record. And I was wondering if you feel any like burden or like responsibility to some tradition, or do you look towards more like mavericks like John Hartford or Grisman, where like you're kind of really are breaking the tradition and just kind of pulling, extracting from.
Oh,
it,
I see.
Do you feel any you feel any responsibility to the tradition?
Well, I don't think I feel like either of those. I mean, old time tradition doesn't need me to hold it up. Clawhammer banjo doesn't need me. I mean, like it's a very deep tradition of playing, but there's also many other people who play clawhammer. I mean, and that kind of playing is so. It's like you can get so nerdy and hyper regional about it.
Yeah.
Like in my area, you can tell like kind of what regional style of clawhammer people are
Right,
playing.
like dialects.
Yeah, or fiddling, even more so maybe. So I don't know. And so many people continue to play so many of those tunes and uphold different regional traditions in the playing. I just don't feel like doesn't need my help.
Right.
And I definitely don't feel beholden to like staying within the confines of any particular tradition, because the tradition is also so malleable and like
Sure.
and so different depending on where you are. So I feel like there's a lot of regional Southwest Virginia flavor, I guess, in the way that I play. But no, I don't feel beholden to tradition. But at the same time, I don't feel like a rascal.
Right,
like going
right.
in
You're not
there,
dismissive of it,
Can't wait to blow the tradition up. That's just not very interesting. I don't think that's very.
Yeah.
I mean, it has to be about the music.
Yeah.
It has to be about where the music's going to take you, and if it felt right to just play traditional pieces, then I just would have done that. I mean,
Sure.
But I'd just been writing more and more stuff and getting more comfortable improvising on the instrument, and then also improvising while I'm recording and like doing arrangement stuff in the studio, and that feels comfortable. So yeah, it felt like an expansion of what I was doing on the first record.
Yeah. So it's more of a postmodern approach. Like you're basically drawing from everything.
Yeah, and like non-musical sources too, like
Sure.
literature and visual art. And,
You were talking about you just mentioned that you're improvising, and I remember reading an article about the Twigs in The Wire, and my favorite thing you said in that was that you improvise, but your music is improvisational and not experimental. And that was a really,
I think that was in the Pelt interview. Or something.
yeah, Pelt interview. That's
Yeah,
what it was.
yeah.
I think that was a really important distinction to make. Because I think, some people view those things as one and the same, like the tradition of Evan Parker or Dada and
totally.
everything. Just it's all the same.
Yeah. Well, I think what I meant is that I don't, like I work really hard on what I want to get across, and so sometimes I think experimental gets this bugaboo of like you're tossing spaghetti at the wall or something, which is
I have that record.
Yes, of course. Which can also be, I mean, I mean, I was deeply affected by like AMM and
Sure.
stuff, listening to that, and
Yeah.
but the way, and Pelt music is the same way, is we're thinking pretty deeply about texturally and or harmonically what we want to get across, and then we want to have our chops be at the point where we can improvise comfortably and not feel like we're reaching for something we can't achieve, if that makes sense. So yeah. I don't want people to think that either in my banjo music, improvising, or any kind of improvising I'm doing, that it's like aimless.
Right.
Or
Right.
all the experimenting kind of happens internally and or within the internal dynamics of the group before we start trying to make the music.
Well, it's well put. And a few more questions for you. You covered Jack Rose, of course. And when you did like Mountain Ramble, I remember thinking like, oh, the banjo really shines, like it illuminates parts of that tune that you don't hear on the guitar. Which I thought was kind of, I like that sort of that irreverent approach. And I was wondering why do you think people aren't covering like Bill Monroe on the Rhodes piano or Charlie Parker on the mandolin? Like, why do you think more people aren't necessarily like transposing what they do to other kinds of music?
I don't know. And I think, to me, I just liked, like when I decided to try playing that, it wasn't because I was like, my thought wasn't, I'm going to take this song and put it to banjo to illuminate things about it that are particular to the banjo. Like it was just based on like, I like the song.
Right.
And I had sat across from Jack while he played it and recorded it with him, and I don't know, the energy and the melodicism of the song was nice. So I mean, it was a very simple thought process. I was like, oh, I just like that song. I'm going to try and play this song.
Yeah.
And it just happens that the banjo is going to bring out different elements. But I don't know, why don't people... I mean, when anything I choose to cover, sometimes it's like a song that I just learned from a solo banjo.
The Jeffrey Kane cover, it's very different from the original.
Yeah. I just like the song.
It's a great song.
But I don't know. What was the one you said? Parker on mandolin?
Yeah.
I mean, it's like how idiomatic is like the spirit of a music, how tied is it to the instrument?
Right.
I think it depends on the musician, I guess. I mean, like, we could talk about that for a long time.
That's a good answer, though. I like that. It depends on the musician. I think that's true. Well, I have one last question for you. Do you have a favorite banjo joke?
I don't. There's like, I mean, there's so many of... I haven't had enough coffee. What...
Can I tell you my favorite? I'll tell you my favorite.
Okay.
Banjo player arrives at the gig early. You've probably heard this one. Arrives at the gig early. Says, well, I'm here early. I'm going to go stop in this place and get a beer. So he leaves the banjo on the seat of the car, goes and gets a beer. You know, he has a few beers. Some time's passed. He's like, man, I better go out and check on the banjo, right? So he leaves the bar and he looks and he sees, sure enough, his window is smashed. And he's like, oh, shit. And he runs up, and in the car, 2 banjos. That's my favorite banjo joke.
That's a pretty good one.
Yeah.
The only other one I remember is but this is like, you can just paste in whatever instrument.
Yeah.
It's like how do you tell when the stage is level? You heard this one?
No.
The drool is coming out of both sides of the banjo player's mouth.
He's a level. Yeah, I like that. That's good. Well, you know.
There's other.
You gotta laugh at yourself.
I feel like there's so many banjo jokes, and I've heard so many of them, but I think I just like process them and then just delete them. So, whoops. Sorry to disappoint.
Nathan, your record is magnificent.
Oh yes, we have it displayed here on
this.
Yes,
you know, it's a great record, and
thanks so much.
Wish you a lot of luck on tour and beyond, and I'm sure I'll see you sooner than later.
Yes.
Thanks for being here, man.
Thanks. Appreciate it.